So, without further ado, we're going to bring former State Senator Jim Rubens, the 2013 Citizen of the Year, as acknowledged by the union leader, for his dogged efforts to oppose expanded gambling here in the Granite State. He's a former chairman of the Granite State Coalition Against Expanded Gambling. There, I had you on the show enough for it. I probably should do that. Jim is going to spend the next 3 to 5 minutes hitting the high points of his campaign, and I guess I'll turn the microphone over. Just a word to the wise: this is how you'll sound best. Take a note.
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. First, a rundown on the problems. This country is, our currency is going to collapse. We're knee-deep in debt. And the Shaheen Obama regime have given us another $7 trillion in debt. It has not turned around the economy, and they're burying our economy in taxes and regulation. And they are shredding the United States Constitution. Now, how are we going to turn this thing around? We've got to do two things to turn this baby around. And this is important because there are three major people running in the primary to replace Jeanne Shaheen. First thing I think all of us in the room agree with, we don't want to replace Jeanne Shaheen with someone who votes just like her. Do we have agreement on that? Do we want to replace her with someone? We don't want to do that, okay? Reached agreement on that. Point two, we want to nominate someone who can win and defeat her, a conservative who can defeat her in the general election. Point two. And point three, we need to nominate someone who not only can articulate our positions, but can move policy forward to reverse big government. We're at the point right now where if there are times when no votes are needed, no question about that. When in the United States Senate, you've got to vote no to stop stuff from happening. But it's not enough. We have got to turn this baby around because it's way too big, overarching, overweening, over-regulating government, and you can only do it by getting 60 votes in the U.S. Senate, and that requires policy skill. So you've got to have someone who is thoughtful, someone who is a statesman, who can lead and articulate. That's the other point. Little bit of applause on that, but remember this as you're voting. If you want to replace Jeanne Shaheen, you've got to replace her with someone who votes different, and you've got to have someone who can move policy forward in our direction to smaller government and liberty. I'm going to give you some examples of stuff that I'm talking about. We're going to need some bold ideas to turn this thing around. And again, no is not enough. So here's things I'm talking about. I'm going to sum them each up in 3 to 5 words. We're going to need Wi-Fi so we can have super Wi-Fi so that we can overcome the monopolies, the Verizon, Comcast monopoly in the state. We want to shut down the Department of Education and block grant the money back to the states and localities. Why do we want to do that? We want to do that, and we want to take a piece of that money and we want to give a piece of it so there's a voucher program nationwide so that deserving kids all over the country can choose the best public or private school for their sons and daughters. That's a bold idea, and we can do this. I did it when I was in the state Senate, and we can do it in the United States Senate. I want to get rid of all energy subsidies, all of them. Corn, ethanol, wind, solar, even the oil depletion allowance. Take it away and let energy industries, let them go, instead of to Washington, let them go back to the consumer and give us cheap, clean, abundant energy again. We are crazy awash in regulation in this country. We've got Obamacare. We've got Dodd-Frank with its 30,000 pages of regulation. What we need to do every 10 years, take all federal regulation and sunset them all. Bring them back to Congress, and if Congress does not agree to keep those regulations going, then they're gone. That's the only way we're going to get rid of this stuff. We are burying and killing our economy. We're killing our economy in tax complexity. We've got to take this crazy tax code that's like Obamacare, but it's about this thick, and it's forcing jobs offshore. We've got to stop this. It's going to take leadership, it's going to take thoughtfulness and statesmanship to do this. So I'm going to stop there because I got a lot more ideas on my yellow sheet. I've been endorsed by the Republican Liberty Caucus. They've looked at the 3 candidates. I am a full spectrum Liberty Republican, and that comes to war, it comes to spying, it comes to the Patriot Act. All right? So, full spectrum Liberty candidate. That's how you're going to get conservatism back in the Congress, because that's going to sell in New Hampshire, and we're going to take that directly to Jean Shaheen and defeat her in the general election. 100 U.S. senators, that's all there are. We only got 2 in New Hampshire. We only got 2. You need someone who can think, someone who can win the general election. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was hard.
Oh wow! I'm gonna practice what little Spanish I know and say "on fuego." And now you know why when people pronounce the Republican primary for the United States Senate as already a foregone conclusion, you know when there's that much fight in one of the candidates that there is no foregone conclusion.
Croc TV.